Britain is a nation adrift. Our borders, once proudly guarded, are now porous and weak. The English Channel, once a symbol of our island's strength, is now a watery graveyard for dreams and desperation. The government's recent changes to asylum procedures are not just a policy blunder, they are a betrayal of our national identity. The decision to house illegal migrants in hotels, often at taxpayers' expense, has ignited a firestorm of public anger. It is a visible, visceral reminder of a government that has lost control. The British people, known for their sense of fair play, are outraged. They see their generosity abused, their hospitality taken for granted. This is not about being uncompassionate. It is about upholding the rule of law. It is about protecting our national security and our way of life. The government's failure to do so has created a crisis of confidence, a sense that our leaders are no longer in control. The British people are not xenophobic. We are, by nature, a welcoming and tolerant people. We have a long and proud history of offering sanctuary to those in genuine need. But the current situation is not about genuine refugees fleeing persecution. It is about economic migrants seeking a better life, exploiting our generosity. The government's inability to distinguish between the two has eroded public trust. The sight of young men arriving on our shores, claiming asylum while leaving their families behind, rings hollow. Where is the compassion in that? Where is the justice? The government's response has been weak and muddled. They offer platitudes about compassion and understanding, while failing to address the root causes of the crisis. They seem more concerned with appeasing the Twitterati than with protecting the interests of the British people. This is not just a failure of the current government. It is the culmination of years of misguided policies, of open borders and multicultural fantasies. The ghosts of Labour past haunt the corridors of power, whispering their siren song of diversity and inclusion. They forget the lessons of history. They forget that a nation without borders is a nation without identity. They forget that uncontrolled immigration leads to social unrest, to the erosion of public services, to the very fabric of our society being torn apart. The Labour Party, once the party of the working class, now seems more interested in representing the interests of everyone but the British people. They have abandoned their core values, and in doing so, they have abandoned the very people who once looked to them for leadership. The human cost of this crisis is immeasurable. The lives lost at sea, the families torn apart, the dreams shattered. But there is another, often overlooked, human cost. The cost to the British people, who see their communities changing beyond recognition, their public services stretched to breaking point, their way of life under threat. The government's failure to control immigration has led to a housing crisis, with British families priced out of the market. It has put a strain on our NHS, our schools, our social services. It has created a breeding ground for resentment and division. This is not about being anti-immigrant. It is about being pro-British. It is about putting the needs of the British people first. It is about ensuring that our country remains a place where our children and grandchildren can live happy and fulfilling lives. Keir Starmer, the current Labour leader, inherited this poisoned chalice. He promised change, a break from the past. But so far, his words have rung hollow. He has failed to provide the leadership, the vision, the courage that is so desperately needed. The recent by-election results should be a wake-up call for Starmer and his party. The British people are crying out for change. They are tired of the empty promises, the virtue signalling, the political correctness that has come to define our national discourse. Starmer has a choice to make. He can continue down the path of appeasement and denial, or he can choose to stand up for the British people. He can choose to put the interests of this country first. The future of his party, and indeed the future of this nation, may well depend on the choice he makes. The immigration crisis has exposed the deep divisions that exist within British society. It has created a climate of fear and mistrust, where neighbour is pitted against neighbour. It has given a voice to those who seek to exploit these divisions for their own ends. The far right, with their hateful rhetoric and simplistic solutions, are circling like vultures, waiting to pick over the carcass of our fractured society. They offer a false hope, a dangerous illusion of a return to a mythical past. We must not allow them to succeed. We must not let fear and division triumph. We must find a way to heal the wounds that have been inflicted upon our nation, to bridge the divides that separate us. The current crisis is not just about immigration. It is about the failure of our political class to address the real concerns of the British people. It is about the growing disconnect between the rulers and the ruled. It is about the arrogance of power and the complacency of the elite. For too long, the political class has ignored the concerns of ordinary people. They have dismissed their fears as bigotry, their anger as ignorance. They have retreated into their echo chambers, surrounded by yes-men and sycophants, deaf to the cries of the people they are supposed to serve. The wages of neglect are high. They are measured in lost trust, in shattered dreams, in a society teetering on the brink. It is time for our leaders to wake up and smell the coffee. The time for platitudes and empty promises is over. The time for action is now. There is a certain irony in all of this. Britain, once the great imperial power, now struggles to control its own borders. The echoes of empire, of a time when we ruled the waves and painted vast swathes of the globe red, now ring hollow. We are no longer the global power we once were. We are a small island nation in a rapidly changing world. We cannot afford to be all things to all people. We must learn to put our own interests first. This is not about turning our backs on the world. It is about being realistic about our place in it. It is about recognizing that we have a duty to our own people, to protect our way of life, to preserve our national identity. The time has come for the government to act. They must take back control of our borders. They must end the scandal of illegal immigration. They must restore the rule of law. This is not about being cruel or heartless. It is about being realistic and responsible. It is about putting the interests of the British people first. It is about ensuring that our country remains a safe, secure, and prosperous place for generations to come. The British people are not afraid to face difficult choices. We are not afraid to stand up for what we believe in. We are not afraid to fight for our country. We demand that our leaders show the same courage and determination. The future of our nation depends on it.